Well, I'm showing you a chaat recipe today. This chaat is extremely special. It's very glamorous looking and it's also the king of the chaat world. Well, it's actually a chaat, a kachori, so you can call it a Raj Kachori. Hey guys, it's the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and welcome to Rajshri Food, which is your ultimate destination for 100% vegetarian recipes. Let's begin. We need to begin the recipe, of course, with refined flour, which is all-purpose flour. And to this, I'm going to add in 2 heaped tablespoons of semolina or rava. Well, this is also known as suji in different parts of the world. We give this a light mix. And to this, because it's an aerated, puffed up, leavened kind of a dough, I'm adding in 2 generous pinches of baking soda. Well, baking soda again is extremely important because, like I said, it's going to help in leavening the entire dough. Mix this well before adding anything else, because this way the soda and the rava or the semolina get perfectly dispersed all across. To this, let's flavor this with salt. Again, we don't have to kind of overdo this. This is just bare minimum flavoring. Do not flavor this with anything else. You know, you could get tempted to flavor this with cumin seeds or ajwain or things like that. But trust me, don't do it because a lot is going to happen. So this is going to be absolutely plain, simple and just single flavored. Let's mix all of this and let's begin with adding in water. Now this is supposed to be puffed like a puri. So the dough, of course, is like a puri. Let's begin with a little bit of water. Mix all of this and gradually we keep increasing the quantity. Do not hasten this process up because this is extremely important. Of course, there's resting and things like that also to this, but what's important is the texture of the dough, the consistency of the dough. With this, our dough is kneaded and ready. And if you've made puris in the past, the dough is absolutely similar to one of those. It's neither too soft nor is it too stiff. Let's bring all of this together. Let's pat this back in the bowl and let's cover this with a damp cloth. Now this is extremely important because the semolina will also kind of bloom while the dough is resting. So rest this for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. The dough has perfectly rested. Let's have a quick check. Well, time to knead it once again because, like I said, the semolina has just kind of begun to bloom and that's what we're looking at. So one quick mix, one quick knead and we are done. Let's divide this into smaller portions, and this could be smaller than the lemon-sized balls that we usually do. Well, as good as the large puris that you generally get in the market or in different homes. Well, Raj Kachori is generally larger in size. Well, the puris that you see, or the pani puri puris, or the sev puri puris, or the sev batata puris that you see in the market are very tiny. They're literally coin-sized, but this one is large, and that's also one of the many reasons why it's called a Raj Kachori or the Royal Kachori. Well, years back when I was studying in Delhi, we used to hop across these newer cities then, which were just kind of cropping up like Noida and Gurugram now. It was Gurgaon then. And we used to trail down, we used to go on these bikes and things like that. And we used to spot, or we used to rather halt at these various chaat fellows, and we used to eat chaats. And we were very kind of shocked and astonished at the size of the kachoris that used to be served, because some of the kachoris used to be really large. And sometimes used to actually wonder as to who eats this. But then, of course, they were more for display and things like that. And the Raj Kachori then actually took fancy because it was this large kachori or a large puri which was stuffed with various good things. Of course, we'll come to that. But first, let's concentrate on this, which is making the kachori. Of course, you get this also in the market, but there's a different fun in making this in your homes. Let's take this on the rolling board and let's roll this into not a very thin puri or not a very thick puri, but it should be somewhere around 1.5 millimeters. The Raj Kachori dough is of course rolled and ready. This goes straight in hot oil, and now you'll realize it sinks at the bottom and then gradually comes up. That's the time, or that's the moment where you actually push it down with a slotted spoon, and you'll realize that it pushes you back up and puffs up, and that's what exactly you're looking at. Once you flip it over, you need to lower the flame and cook it for roughly a minute and a half on low flame, because that way it'll become nice, sturdy and crisp on the outside. Let's transfer this and start making the rest of the kachoris. Just in case you get tempted to add in refined flour, what you can do is just add in a few drops of oil on the rolling board and roll it the same way. With this, our kachoris are fried and ready. Let's move on to the next step, and that is garnishing this or making it the Raj Kachori that it is. Let's do that. Let's move on to the fillings or the garnishes, which is actually what defines the Raj Kachori, and that's also something that makes the kachori rich, absolutely royal or regal looking and luscious. And what adds to that is the plating, of course. So for this, I'm choosing a very different kind of a pan. And this is also that makes modern Indian food the way it is, right? So I'm taking this westernized looking pan, and in that I'm plating an Indian chaat, right? So let's move on. The first thing is, of course, to take a Raj Kachori, which is not a Raj Kachori as of now, it's just a large kachori, and you puncture it. You break the top and just kind of puncture it and place this right in the center of the plate. And what you begin with is, of course, you can choose the garnishes or you can choose the toppings. You can add in peas, which is also very popularly known as ragda, or you can add in kabuli chana, which is also known as chana or pindi. Well, I'm using potatoes because I'm personally fond of potatoes in my chaat. So let's begin with potatoes. Well, I've also seen a chaat which is actually a Raj Kachori in which they begin with pakodis. So in case you can lay hands on pakodis, it could be a moong dal pakodi, it could be a urad dal pakodi, it could be mixed dal pakodi. You can make it as healthy as you can. Of course, that's a complete personal choice. And to this, I'm adding in some sprouted moong. Well, this is as simple as moong, which is kept to sprout overnight. And then you give it a blanch or give it a boil with just some salt, and that's perfect. Let's add in some meaty chutney. Well, chutney is something that we all know how to make, but nevertheless, if you're not the ones who make it regularly, there is a detailed recipe in the description box below. Click on that and that will take you to chutneys that you can make for your chaats. Well, I'm using, of course, sant ki chutney, which is your meaty chutney. What you can also do is make it a little messy. When I say messy, it's just culinary messy or artistic messy, because that is what makes the Raj Kachori look absolutely luscious. So I am just kind of drizzling it on the sides. To this, some coriander chutney or mint chutney or tikhi chutney, whatever you call this. Along with this, I'm adding in dahi, because of course dahi makes it absolutely nice and rich. Let's whisk this up. This is fresh curds. What you can do is you can add in just a touch of salt to this or some sugar to this and sweeten this naturally. So let's whip this up. Let's add in spoonfuls of this. Now this has to be quite a generous fill, because this is what literally gives the kachori its burst of flavor. Again, you can give it a little bit of a messy look. Time to spice this up, or rather spike this up with some masalas. Let's begin with red chili powder, which could be optional depending on if you're serving it to children or people who do not like spices. To this, a generous amount of kala namak or black salt. Much more than that, and which is what gives this its flavor, and that is bhuna zira or bhuna jeera or roasted cumin seeds. Powdered, crushed, the way you like. Just a touch of salt, because if you realize and notice, there's nothing really that has salt per se apart from the potatoes and moong, which is just as bare minimum as it could get. Just a touch of salt. To this, I'm adding in fresh pomegranate seeds, because of course it gives it nice color. coriander. And once again to this, I'm adding in some whipped yogurt or whipped curds. You can of course make it look as sumptuous as you can. For color, of course, you can use things like chana dal, which is orangish yellow in color. You can use moong dal, which is absolutely yellow in color, or you can use seb, which is bright yellow in color. So now if you come closer and have a look, it's a huge large kachori which has potatoes, it has moong, it has whipped curds, it has some masalas. What's important are the two chutneys, which is your salt ki chutney or the meaty chutney, and the tikhi chutney or the coriander chutney. And finally, you add in some pomegranate seeds, you add in some coriander leaves, and this goes straight on the table. With this, your Raj Kachori is done and ready. Now you decide whether this is a chaat or a kachori chaat or a chaat kachori. Well, I leave that to you. What's important is make this for your family and friends, because if you are the ones who does not like eating across the streets, make this for your family and friends. On that note, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to Rajshri Food, and for more such stunning recipes, stay tuned.